night we are here at my two smallest worm bins. This is my tiny worm bin and this is my micro worm bin. And both these worm bins were absolutely free and so were the worms inside. And today we are going to go ahead and check on this micro worm bin. We haven't been in here in 2 months together, but I've been feeding it in between. And over here we are going to be harvesting out some of the worm castings and continuing to feed this side so the worms move this way. So let's go ahead and get started. About a month ago, I actually took the opportunity to dump this whole micro worm bin out because, as you may recall, we had a whole bunch of pine needles in here and some other debris that kind of came from the compost pile, which is where everything that's in here came from, to include the worms. So what we did was we just dumped the whole thing out, and then I started sorting the worms one by one and putting them over into one container, and I kind of picked through the bedding, and to the side I started taking out the needles. Well, after several minutes of that, I realized that A, I wasn't going to be able to get every single worm because there were so many babies in there, and B, fishing out every single little stick and pine needle was turning into a real pain. So we just put some of the contents back in, and then I added an apple core, a celery stalk, strawberry top, and a banana peel and celery piece. Then I added more shredded cardboard and the rest of the bin contents and dumped the worms that we took out and put them right on top of that. Finally, we added worm chow, coffee grounds, and pulverized eggshell grit in another layer, followed by damp shredded cardboard on the very top. And then about a week ago, we also did a mid-feeding of a strawberry, a tiny apple core, some blueberries, and a section of banana peel. Then we covered it up, and then I remembered that we needed to feed it some worm chow, coffee grounds, and eggshell grit, so I put that in there. And let's look inside. I started to see some worm butts slithering down, but I'm not seeing them right now. There's one right there. And as you recall, I thought that I might have some Asian jumping worms in here, so we'll see if any of those are apparent. But right here, this looks like a good area of red wigglers. Check it out. I can tell because they have those little orange rear ends, and they are loving this banana peel right here. There's one right there. I'm just putting all this stuff to the side so we'll be able to put it back in, but that's about as close as you're going to get to a worm ball in this micro bin. I am very happy with the numbers that I'm seeing and the fact that they are eating this. As you can tell, I mean, I think this banana peel was put in probably 7 days ago, so clearly they are not eating this very fast, and that's because I have so few numbers of worms in here. So we're going to set that to the side, and we're just going to keep digging in the middle. I'm starting to see some more food mush. So when you have a brand new bin and a bin that just doesn't have a whole lot of worms, you really have to be careful with how much food you feed. And we're doing all right. I am seeing a lot of coffee grounds, so I think we're going to skip that this time. Here's that apple core. Again, 7 days old in this micro bin. And I actually think I saw a little worm on there. Did I see one? Maybe not. Everything's so glistening. Oh, there he is right there. Little bitty worm near the end of my index finger. So, oh, there's a good one right there. This is doing good. Okay, I'm just going to dig down and kind of aerate it because that really is the purpose besides feeding of going in here like this. Normally, I'm not disturbing them throughout the week. I'm just taking the opportunity when I feed to aerate the bin, and there's a worm right there. And what that does is make sure that we get some oxygen deep down in here, especially in a tall bin. You know, when you're comparing the width to the height, you want to make sure that you aerate it because carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen and it will sink to the bottom. So I'm just gonna lift up without spilling stuff and just give it a twist. That's about as good as I can do. Here is another mushy something with a bunch of worms in it. I love it. That is the unique thing about compost worms. They do not mind being all up against each other. Whereas a garden worm, you're not going to see that, or a worm that you might see on the sidewalk after a rain. So things are looking good, and the moisture is really good in here. So I am not going to feed this a whole bunch, but I am going to feed it some fast food. And yeah, look at that. Another fantastic worm right there on the end of my finger. Beautiful worms, beautiful worms. I'm not going to put any fresh bedding because they have enough in here, but this is just some from the side over here that I had taken out of this bin. And here's what I plan to feed them. But I think I'm only going to put in this lettuce and this strawberry right here because we saw that they already have this banana peel. So we're just going to leave their food right there. Give them a little bit of eggshell grit, just like that. And then just a little bit of worm chow like that. And then now we're just going to dump it all in there. Perfect. Now here is the napkins or paper towels that they had on there. They're a little bit wet, but part of them is dry, so I'm going to spray it down real quick. And I found 2 baby worms that I'm just going to try and make sure get in here. And I'm actually going to wash my hands in this glove after this because these all came from my compost pile. And since I might have gotten a different species in here other than red wigglers, I don't want to spread that to my tiny worm bin that I know has just red wigglers. And again, this whole bin was absolutely free because it came out of my compost pile. And even the plastic bin here came from a Chinese restaurant, got it for free. So 100% free right here. All right, so let's put on the plastic, and now let's go look at my tiny traveling worm bin. Now I am really excited about this bin because I'm hoping we can harvest some of the castings in here. And I think we'll come over here and just kind of scrape the top surface and see if we find any worms. And so far, so good. Now we do have some particles right here, and I can just actually put some of them over on this side if I want, because this side over here is just going to extend in and become the new worm bin that we're gonna start once we get all these castings out. So just do a little bit more, and these are gonna go into storage, so I'm not worried about having absolutely perfect worm castings in here. Any little bits and pieces can be eaten by the worms that kind of hatch out of cocoons or get left in there in the storage. So here's our yellow bin that some of you may be familiar with if you've been at the channel any length of time. And I'm just gonna scrape and put them into the yellow bin, almost like doing the agitation method where I scrape the top and the worms go down. But this time we're not going to sit here and wait and let the worms drive all the way down because there's nowhere for them to go. It's no tray underneath or anything. This is just one bin. So let me do this for a little bit and then we'll come back. I've got to say, I'm about a third of the way down and I have not run into any worms, so I am really happy with how this migration has gone so far. And there really shouldn't be a reason for more to be down lower because the food is over here, so that is what they should be attracted to. So let's keep going. Wow, this is amazing. Look at that. We are all the way to the bottom and I don't see. I see. You saw one? A big one or like a baby?
Big.
Big.
It's in that corner.
Oh, right here. He's just going to get a little transport right there. Oh, that is a fat one. That was a fat one. Oh, here's another one right here. If it's just a few, I will transport them and not leave this. It's almost not worth it because we can restart our bin today. I didn't think we were going to be able to do that. I thought maybe I'd be able to harvest half the castings, but with 3 worms and that's it left in here, that is fantastic. You see something? Okay, that's the corner. I have a little trouble seeing my vantage point. Yep, 4 worms. A big one?
Yeah.
One in there?
Just covered it up.
5. All right, so the executive producer said that I might have missed a worm or 2 in our castings, but I think for the most part, we are good. Check it out. We did a pretty good job filling up this yellow bin, and I will weigh it and put the number for the weight on the screen right there, but I think we're just gonna let this fall down just like that. I'm gonna scrape this off, and let's just kind of dissect this area over here. I'm not too worried about it because essentially we're restarting the bin. We've got a couple worms there, and let's kind of push things aside. And oh yeah, check it out. Tons of worms. Oh, right here is a great little piece of lettuce that I put in here about 3 days ago just to give them another feeding. And you can see tons of mites there near my thumb. And actually, we've got some potworms right there. This is the first time I've seen potworms in here in a very long time. And then we've got all kinds of good worms right there. Some good red wigglers. So pretty cool little ecosystem. They are helping each other out to turn this piece of lettuce into castings. That is really cool. Big ones and babies. All right, there we go over there. We've got lots of coffee grounds. which is good. Look at that. Beautiful little juvenile right there. Some big ones. Things are looking fantastic. Let's kind of pull the corner over and look. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I am seeing chunks of things, avocado shells. Those things last forever. I had a really funny comment from somebody that said the last dinosaur went extinct before the first piece of avocado actually turned into soil, or something like that. But oh my gosh, check it out. Look at that. Oh, man, we should have counted these guys because this looks like an absolute ton of worms. This carrying capacity of this bin is about 1,000 to 1,100, but man, it feels like there's a whole bunch more in here. That is awesome. I am really liking this migration. They were all over here. We barely had anything over there. I think we counted like 6 or 7 worms. So that is a fantastic way to harvest your bin. And this is a very tiny bin. It's 3 gallons and there's only about a gallon of material in here. But just think if you had like 5,000 worms in a big old bin and you put the food on one side and they just went over there, man, that would save you so much time sifting and all that kind of thing. Now, there are some chunks in here. Some of it is food stuff or long-term foods, but some of it is also kind of matted down material. So we are going to put a pretty good amount of shredded cardboard in here, and we are going to give them a good feeding because I also want to bulk this up. Taking out all those castings has really shrunken down the available area for the worms, so they need a lot of bedding put in here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And yeah, I had a feeling I was going to have a lot of worms on my gloves. Baby ones too. So I'm going to put a little bit of a thin layer of shredded cardboard right here. And then right here is where we are going to start their brand new feeding. So here's what we had in mind. All of this food had been frozen previously. And we've got some lettuce from my garden, so we'll put that in. We've got some banana peels and a couple of apple cores and strawberries. So we'll dump that in. And it's got some liquid in there as well. And we'll just spread that out just a little bit. And then this I had saved from the micro worm bin, but we'll put it in here. And for our interval of anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks, that is plenty of food for this worm bin. And right here is just some worm chow, just some expired grains from my pantry, just an opportunity for me to put a little bit more food into the worm bin, but none of this is necessary. Same thing, we'll go in with some coffee grounds. There's spent coffee grounds, and I also put some tea grounds in here. I'm not sure if there's any in this specifically, but again, it's just another opportunity for me to put it into my worm bin and let them process it so it goes into my garden instead of going into the landfill. And then we'll throw in some eggshell grit for them. I just take my eggshells and I rinse them, let them dry out, and then I pulverize them in my Magic Bullet blender, and then I just put them into the worm bin. And they use those little pieces of hard grit in their digestive system to break up the food that they eat. And normally here I kind of fold the material back in, but because this is kind of restarting and there's not a whole lot of volume, I'm just going to put more shredded cardboard right on top. And the worms will come up once they sense this food here. So in we go with some nice handfuls of shredded cardboard. And if you're fairly new to the channel, you may or may not know that this bin was actually free to me. I went to a vermicomposting workshop at my local county extension office. There's a county extension office that works with a university in every county in the United States, and I got this bin and the worms for free. We actually made the worm bins right in the workshop right there. So we drilled the holes and put all this screen that you see on here in the workshop. It was really cool. And I think some of our favorite worm farmers and worm farmer channels like AJ's Green Topics and Gardening with Barchuckin are both a couple of people that put on vermicomposting workshops. So I'll put the website to find your local county extension office in the description of this video. And if you want to see how to get started with a worm bin like this, check out this video right here. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing fantastic. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.